Okay, hello. I'll be your course director this month. My name is John Piro, and I'd like to welcome you to Portfolio 2. Okay. There's going to be two main projects this month. A jump project that's going to happen in weeks 1 and 2, and also a change of direction project, and that'll be weeks 3 and 4. Okay, so let's get started. We'll take a look. All right, moving along. Boom. Okay, so prerequisite knowledge. Coming into this class, you should have a basic knowledge of the principles of animation, right? That's probably a given. We'll be using the same character rig you have used in previous animation classes, so you should have a good understanding of how to properly pose and key the rig, and a good understanding of the importance of the use of the foot controls, what to peel off the foot off the ground and put it back on. You should have a clear understanding of what a strong pose is, right? The use of contrapposto, line of action, silhouette, staging, and center of gravity. Knowledge of the graph editor, the timeline, mel buttons, and quick selection sets to properly select, pose, and key your character rig. Okay. Moving along. Okay. So there's going to be two rigs that you guys work with this month. The character rig that you're already familiar with, and say hello to Bob, the little red guy on the right. Be sure to watch the rig intros on both characters to fully understand proper use of the available controls on both of those rigs. Why Bob, you say? Well, Bob is a training rig to help you focus on major points in your of the understanding of your animation. Bob simplifies the animation process, making posing, animating your character much quicker and less complicated. He also helps you to focus on the mechanics of the motion in the character's torso, because that's all he is, right? A torso. Illustrating a clear use of leading and following, as you can see in this example. So let's clarify the idea of the use of leading and following, which is a big thing this month. With this example, you can see in both of the characters, the hips are leading the action, meaning they move first. The hips anticipate down, then they push up into the upper body to move the character upward. Then the hips will drop after that, before that upper body drops, and then it will follow later. So lead and follow, cause and effect, action and reaction, however you want to say it. This is the essence of understanding how to break down your scene and animate anything. One of the main goals of this class is to challenge you to push your problem-solving creativity, quality, and to build on your understanding of the use of the principles of animation, while of course still meeting requirements and staying on task. So let me just even kind of pause this a little bit, and I just again want to really try and clarify the idea of leading and following. So again, both of these characters are doing similar things, and they're both leading with the hips. You can even see the hips tilting slightly back before they drop in anticipation, and the upper body of both characters are going to stay up a little longer and then come down later. And that's where you get the overlapping action. The upper body drags, and then as the hips start to go back up and push into it, which is leading, right, to push the body up, the overlap happens where the upper body keeps going down and drags downward. When the hips peak, that's when the body finally catches up and overshoots upwards, before the hips drop again, and once again you'll see that the upper body and the head come down later. Okay, so leading and following, major theme that's going to be running throughout the whole month. Okay. Oops. All right, so what you're going to see here are all student examples. Okay, you will notice that there is a progression of work as we look through this slideshow, and you'll see that the work gets more difficult for each project. Okay, so milestone 1 starts you off with an introduction to the Bob rig and tasks you to be creative and bounce the character's body parts off of each other, much like a basic ball bounce. Okay, with a strong focus on leading and following, like we discussed before. Obviously, the use of anticipation, squash and stretch, slow in and slow out, exaggeration, and timing and spacing. And don't forget the appeal, right? There is a very open approach to how you handle and create your actions for this project and all of the projects, as long as you understand and meet requirements. Okay, so moving along. Also, in milestone 1 is jumping Bob, okay? So, milestone 1, week 1, you'll be jumping the character Bob next after you bounce him. This builds on many of the same principles at play in that Bouncing Bob project, and it adds some extra elements of working in a supplied set and with a supplied shot camera. And it's now incorporating more of a character animated workflow to specify an action using the pose-to-pose method. Keep in mind this builds on what's been done in the Bouncing Bob project with a strong emphasis on leading and following and all the other principles that are at play. Okay, so week 2, milestone 2, it's on, right? Time to go prime time. Time to use everything you've done in week 1 to animate your character rig, okay? How do you get the same type of mechanics and action into the performance of your character rig as what you did with Bob, with good old Bob, right? Can you make that connection? This is your job and goal. This panel is set up to illustrate the translation of how Bob jumped and how it was interpreted with very similar ideas and mechanics to the character's performance. And I think you guys can kind of see that. And again, this is the progression and the goal throughout the month, and obviously with the jump project. Okay, so here are some examples of some final student jump projects. And that will be a wrap with the jump project at this point. And we'll go on to week 3 with milestone 3, and that's going to be the change of direction project. Okay, so in this project, you'll be working from supplied video reference, as you can see. It's much more complicated of an action and is more demanding in mechanics, balance, as well as technical control of your character rig to pull this off into a believable performance. So working again from a supplied shot camera, you will begin to block out your scene by importing your chosen reference into Maya on an image plane. So that you can work directly from it. You're going to be laying out your character's path, focusing on the contact poses that represent all the steps that are taken in your reference that you're trying to create from. These are examples of students beginning blockouts, as you can see. So step 1 of your change of direction is to start your blockout. In that same week, week 3, milestone 3, you're also going to be working with Bob again. Okay, so you'll animate your newfound friend Bob. The red post on the footsteps that you have laid out will serve as Bob's guides to animate him, because he's going to be hopping from one post or footstep to another. Okay, poor Bob, he has no legs. So we'll have to hop in order to move him from one post to another. Okay. At this point, you should be extremely comfortable with creating the needed hopping action to achieve this, right? You'll be using the video reference as a guide to understand the basic mechanics of how the body should move through these steps. Once again, I point you out to the idea of leading and following. How is your character moving? Is he leading with his head or his upper body? Is he leading with his hips? How does he anticipate? Then how are you going to suggest this type of action with the Bob rig? Keep in mind that Bob has no legs and he will have to jump in order to move also. So the use of exaggeration and what you already know about the jump, as well as using mechanics from the reference, are all needed to be considered in this challenge. Okay. Boom. Okay, so now we move on to week 4, milestone 4. So if you've done your job understanding and animating mechanics represented in your reference with your Hopping Bob project, well, now you should have the knowledge needed to finish your change of direction project with your character rig. Of course, it's more difficult again because you're trying to orchestrate the arms and the legs, but at least you have the knowledge of the mechanics at play. Your Hopping Bob animation should be a constant reminder of how to focus on the major changes in your character's physical performance, and also help you to remember to utilize exaggeration in your work. What's the connection with Hopping Bob and your character taking a step? They both need to use the principles of squash and stretch in order to show weight of the character's actions, right? So how will you apply that to your character? what's leading and what's following in the character's torso. If you've done your work with Bob, you should know by now. So then how will you apply those same ideas to your character's performance? Hopefully by the time by this time you'll be able to figure it out. Last you'll finish up your change of direction project by adding a simple 3-point light setup to give your scene a more polished look for turning. Okay, so at this point, guys, that was kind of the quickest overview I could give you visually, but hopefully that points you in the right direction, and I will see you guys when I see you.